Please, those on the line, please kindly don't go off. Doc will join us soon, please. Please, to those who just joined, please, Doc is doing something small, so he will join us soon, please. However, he's checking the attendance, so please kindly be online, please.
Okay, we are waiting. We are waiting.
Watch your chicken wings now. I have fun. Yeah, you didn't maybe how they fun. Ah, no, you Lawrence outside. One, I'm sure I'm not sure.
Please, we've been waiting on the line for a long time. What's going on, please?
Okay, please, to those who just joined, Doc is doing something small. So let's all exercise patience. He will join us very soon, please. Thank you.
You are welcome, sir. You are welcome. You are welcome. We are waiting too.
Doc, please check the microphone, please.
Yeah, hello. Hello.
Yeah, Doc, we cannot hear you.
Uh,
Revelation chapter 19, verse 1 to 10. Amen. Praise the Lord. We are taking our scripture reading from Revelation chapter 19, verses 1 to 10. Revelation chapter 19, verses 1 to 10. I am reading from the NIV version. After this,
hello.
Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
Doc,
please.
please, we can hear you.
Okay. So,
Filling station go. I therefore outside of one. Filling station is there for what?
some online lecture. Mr. Ike, the architect. Yes. Yes, please, can you hear me? I was in a staff common room where other lecturers are around, so that's why the noise.
Yes, Doc, we can hear
Yes,
you.
very well. So today we'll look at culture and resource. We'll look at culture and resource. The relationship between the two variables. So long as we are humans, our way of life, the culture, has implications on resource utilization. And that is the picture we want to look at. And in human geography, once you are dealing with people, their way of life is predicated upon the variables or the resources at their disposal. So it is not out of place to diagnose it and see how we impact it. So like the basic definition of culture that we all know, that it is the set of ideas, the beliefs, practices. Your people have moved me from the staff. I'm having an online lecture, so when they come, then I go. So if you can reduce your volume small. See, I can say I should come back. Yeah, oh Charlie. If you are not on campus and you're outside, so many interferences. Oh, there's a lady who washes our bowls for us. Oh. Okay. So we are looking at the ideas, the beliefs, and practices held in common by people within society living in a particular place or region. That is culture, ideas, beliefs. Within a society that people live. So if you look at the definition, there are three variables that can be taken from this. So one,
don't do it again. Give it to me to and do it.
And then two,
don't do it again. Bring it back. I come and do it for you. I'll leave it alone. Do you hear me?
Who is instructing the child?
I said, don't put it together again and bring it to me.
So that please, can you mute yourself?
Sir, please, I have done it, so let's continue.
Okay. Please, Mr. Mono, is that your sound? There's a sound at the background. Yes, sir. Please, can you reduce your sound small for me? Sorry. Okay, thank you. Online lecture, if you are not on campus, so distractions here and there. Okay. So from the definition, three variables can be picked out of the definition, and we are saying one of them is that culture is shared, culture is learned, and then culture implies an intimate. So please, you can correct that. It is not culture implies and no, culture implies an intimate connection between culture and place. So if you are talking about culture as a set of ideas, beliefs, and practice held in common by people within a society living in a particular place of origin, then we can say that it is shared. Now, when we say it is shared, then we are looking at the cultural trait, the cultural characteristics, the features So what are the material objects that is used? What are the technologies? What are the social forms? What are the beliefs on which cultures one founded are common to considerable members of the people? So if, let's say, the food that we eat, now when you go to the north, the food that is eaten there, it is quite different when you come to the southern part, because most of the foods prepared there are made up of cereals. But when you come to the south, you see a lot of tuber, what do you call it, a crop that serves as food to many of them. And those aspects forms what we call the cultural trait or the features in the culture. And then we also say it is learned. Most cultures make concerted effort to ensure that important cultural traits are taught, like socialization, the transfer of values, norms, aspirations from one generation to the other. It is a way of transforming or transferring a culture from one group to the other. Sometimes we usually hear people say that yes, this is what our grandparents handed over, our grandfathers handed over to us. It is our culture, it's our way of life. How did we get there? Were those people saying so? Were they there some years ago? No, but through generations, we've been able to inherit. In the final one, we are saying that culture implies an intimate connection between culture and place. So the unique character can be attributed. Now you eat what you eat because of where you come from. That's why you are not supposed to look down on people based on what they eat or in total how they live their lives, because you behave the way you behave because of where you are coming from. Man is a product of his environment. The sociologist will tell you. You understand? So there is that connection, there's that telepathy between your way of life and the environment you find yourself in. If some of us, we did not make any concerted effort to learn the languages that we have, it is just because of where we are. You understand? Some of us are able to speak diverse languages. It is because of the different environment and the people we've associated ourselves with. That is how come we have inherited that trait. And it is the third dimension of culture. So culture is learned. Culture implies an intimate connection between cultures and the place, and then culture is also shared. Now, a cultural region. So we mentioned cultural region. So what is a cultural region? A cultural region is formal or functional region defined on the basis of common cultural traits. So, and like in the definition of region in geography, geographers will say that a region is an area with unique characteristics. And I hope I am right. A region is an area with unique characteristics. So sometimes you hear Western region, Northern region. A region can be found within a region based on how you want to, or the characteristics that is prevailing around that place. Based on that, we can classify it as a region. So a cultural region is functional region defined on the basis of the common cultural traits. So in geographical studies, care must be taken to avoid prejudice against traits that are not associated with one's own culture. Yes, so like I was saying, the fact that that thing is not part of your own, but it is part of others. As a learned person, you're not supposed to just jump into conclusion and condemn people. Now, when you go to Greenland, there is a tribe called the Eskimos. I usually cite this as an example. If I visit you, like Stephen Edu, if I visit you and your family, that night your wife is mine. That is their culture. You not agree. When I mention it here, you say how that is their culture. When you get there, don't condemn them. Don't jump into conclusion. Say that what kind of barbaric culture is this, please. That's their way of life.
That's where the first intercourse is observed by
Our sisters,
parents.
yes. You see, there are some other aspects. Like my senior is also adding that there are even other parts of the world that the first intercourse, a member of the bride family will have to serve as a witness. I don't know whether an observer. Can you imagine an observer? I don't know how it sounds to you, but that is culture. Please. So, as a learned person, when you see or when you witness someone's culture for the first time, don't be too quick to pass judgment or condemn them. Okay. So in the past, many Americans and Europeans refer to non-Western cultures as barbaric or savage. There is no evidence that any culture is superior to any other. Please take notice of that. Sometimes modernity and civilization, you may be tempted. So you may be tempted to think because you are enlightened, what they are doing, it is even demonic, especially those of us who are Latter-day Saint believers, the newborn again guys. We pray 247. We are holier than any other person you can think of. Please, we should be circumspect in how we pass judgment on other people's culture, because take this statement: there is no evidence. There is no evidence that any culture is superior to any other. I remember the first time I went to the American embassy and they refused me visa and said, you people, a country that people have sex on the street, you are preventing people from going there and you think you are happy. Ever since you came to this country, Ghana, have you been walking on the street and seeing people doing that? We are decent. We love our country. And there was a man in the queue. He was just looking at it. He said, that's the truth. You see him. So let's take notice of that. Now, each has evolved in response to conditions associated with it from place of origin and interaction with other cultures. So we are saying that culture evolves. Please do get it. Culture evolves. Day in, day out. We are learning new things. There are new discoveries in terms of technology, clothing, entertainment, all the other dimensions that come together to form our way of life keeps on changing. Today, you can even put your phone in the microwave in the morning when you're leaving for work, and you connect your microwave to your phone. When you are getting to your house, depending on your proximity, you can regulate the microwave, so that by the time you get to your house, your phone is warm. If you are hungry, can you imagine? This is where we have gotten to a whole lot. Now, when you enter some hotels and you exit, once you close the door, every electrical gadget in the room will go off. It is connected to the door. So you don't say, oh, I forgot it. I didn't put off this. No. We keep on evolving. Culture keeps on evolving. So if others haven't gotten to where you are, let us not be quick to condemn them. Geographers study culture traits and culture regions, examine artifacts. So take notice of that. We examine artifacts, institutions, and values. So these are the three dimensions of interest to the geographer when you are studying culture. You are interested in the artifact, you are interested in the institution and the values. So what are the artifacts? So the artifacts in culture are the material objects produced and used in order to satisfy human needs and desires. What are some of the examples of artifacts? Food, clothing, building, furniture, poetry, coins, toy, etc. Then when we talk of institutions, they are the system that regulate conduct and govern social relations within cultures. Example, school, the church, corporate organization, system of etiquette, and legal procedures. They are examples of institutions. Are you taking notice of these three dimensions? And then the third one is cultural values. Cultural values are the basic beliefs within cultures concerning the nature of life, society, of the natural within the cultures that we have around us. Gone are the days if you were young, when you meet the aged, you must greet. It is the responsibility of you, the young one, to greet the aged. If you sit in a vehicle, you don't say, I have paid for it, so you let the grown up stand. It is not right. It is not right. These are some of the values in our culture. Please, are you following? Hello, are you guys there?
Yeah, Doc, we are here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Dog, we
yeah,
are
right.
here. We are here. You're following.
Very good. Judith, can you mute yourself? Judith.
Please, your volume is a bit down.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, sir.
I've increased it. I can hear you so clear and loud. Is it okay? Is it okay now?
It's better.
Okay, that's good. So let's go on. So I was talking about the third dimension, which is the values, and I was citing examples in our culture. A friend told me that he went to Germany, and when he joined the trail, it was full, and a certain old woman, came to stand by him, and he had to stand for the old woman to sit down. As soon as the woman sat, or the old woman sat, she looked at the guy and said, "Are you a Ghanaian?" And that was a fantastic assertion by the woman, and she was right, because she knew that it is one of our values as Ghanaian that if you see the aged, you must. But gradually, those who call themselves Gen Z, I don't know if it is foolishness or what, we've thrown it away. They will just say everybody has paid. No, you can't do that. Okay. Then we also have what we call cultural landscape. So when we talk of cultural landscape, what is it? Cultural landscape are the observable results of interaction between a society and its environment, and are subject to frequent changes. So as man, so when we talk of cultural landscape, you are looking at the interaction between society and the environment, people and the environment, and the changes that have occurred or that keeps on occurring. You know where you stay. For the last 20 years or 20 years ago, that place wasn't as it is today, where some of us grew up from. 20 years ago, if you were asked to go through the community and sell cassava on the trail, in a matter of 20, 30 or maximum 1 hour, you are done. Today, the same community, if you're even given a motorbike, to take you not less than 3, 4, 5 days or even 2 weeks, you can't. The community has become vast. Changes have occurred, developmental projects, and a whole lot. So we are looking at the observable source of interaction, the changes, the modifications that occur as a result of interaction between society and the environment. Now, the process of innovation and diffusion that result in cultural change are often visible on the cultural landscape. Changes in cultural landscape can also result from successive occupation of a region by different cultures. Successive occupation of place by distinct cultures is known as subsequent occupants. Subsequent occupants. So the successive occupation of a place by distinct cultures is what is called subsequent occupants. Culture is dynamic, and as such, is subject to continual changes over time. So take notice of that. Culture is dynamic, and once it is dynamic, then it is subject to change over time. Cultural landscape or cultural changes occur in response to changes in the environment, to improve in technology, to interaction with other cultures. Changes in culture result from the processes of innovation and individuation. So when there is innovation, new ideas come in, definitely we will move from where we used to be and then we make advancement. When there is cultural diffusion is like an idea or a way of life in one environment getting to a different environment. That is cultural diffusion. You get it? Very good. So the studies of subsequent occupants are often useful in showing how a particular physical environment can serve different cultures in different ways. Cultures differ in their recognition of potentially useful environmental substances. And once recognized, how these substances can be converted into artifacts. Substances that can be transferred into artifacts are called resources. Remember, we said that artifacts are the tangibles in a culture. So it could be food, it could be clothing. I gave several examples: food, clothing, buildings, furniture, poetry, coins, toy, etc. Please do get it. And we are saying that a transformation of artifact into a resource is called, or when a substance is transformed into artifact, then it is called a resource. But in the actual sense, a substance becomes a resource only if human beings find use for it. So in resource perception and management, one of the liberal courses on campus, we tell students that until one finds a need for a material, it is not a resource. Take notice of that. Nature has given us a lot of materials. Now, when we put them together, we don't call it resource, we call it neutral stuff. Neutra, then STUFF. That's the word, neutral stuff. So all the materials you find within the environment, in resource perception, it is called neutral stuff. But if you discover the use of any of them to you, then that one becomes a resource. I hope I've made myself clear. So you don't just classify all materials in the environment. Oh, they are resource. Ghana is blessed with so. No. If it is not useful to you, it's not a resource. So we say that resources are not, they become. That's a full essay. Resources are not, they become. So through ingenuity, through creativity, through technology, and the mother of all resources, knowledge, then you turn around those neutral stuff to be useful to you, then we can say that is a resource. But the mere fact that they are in the environment doesn't make it a resource. Okay. So those resources that can be extracted and used profitably are called reserves. So resources that are not reserves are known as sub-economic resources. Sub-economic resources are not worth the cost of extracting them. So if you extract a resource and you do the calculations, then you realize that what you are going to invest in extracting that resource exceeds the profit, then that resource is sub-economic resource. The cost of extraction is greater than the profit or what you get at the end. So whether a substance is a resource, a sub-economic resource, a reserve, or worthless substance, it depends on its value to humans. I hope you get it. It depends on the value to humans. So the value of substance in turn depends on its price, technology, and culture. Then we also have culture, contact, and conflict. Now, contact between culture allows new innovation to diffuse rapidly, and this enriches both originating and borrowing cultures. Sometimes, cultural conflict has resulted in virtual destruction of some cultures and dramatic manipulation of new cultures. Western culture or non-Western culture. You get it. Modification of an existing culture in response to pressure from other culture is known as acculturation. Acculturation. Take notice of that. We also have what is called cultural shock. As for cultural shock, mostly when you travel outside, that's where you yesterday a friend in the US was telling me that he ordered for a laptop, and in less than 72 hours, they brought the laptop to his doorstep. And he was surprised. So, wow. He couldn't believe it. For those days that he was in Ghana, in Tamale, can you imagine? Buying. In fact, you are not even guarantee of its authenticity and quality. So usually you see people making fun. What I ordered and what I received, there is variance, big variance in the two. So when he got there and saw the way the system works, he was shocked, and that's what is called cultural shock. But when a culture submit to a more dominant one, then that one becomes acculturation, or a more powerful culture empowering a weaker one or a lesser one. That one becomes what is called acculturation. And mostly colonization or colonialism brought about acculturation. Now, colonialism refers to the takeover and management of local economies and political system by foreign powers. Between 1450 and 1900, colonialism occurred in almost all over the world, except Europe. Some of the interests of the colonialists included a source of labor supply, potential market for goods, and valuable resources and other useful raw materials. Okay. So what is the impact of colonial non-Western cultures on us? So one of them, acculturation of indigents. When you are in Cape Coast, you understand this so well. Sometimes when you meet a typical Cape Coast or a fancy, and the person mentions his name, you wonder whether he's a Ghanaian or he's a British. What's in that war force? Say, hey, can you imagine? Yeah, that is a classic example of acculturation. The colonizers.
Sorry, question,
Yes,
please.
Yes, please.
Please, I wanted to ask you. Talk about culture acculturation, where
Yes,
a dominant culture practice influences indigenous ones. I want to ask, in the case of area where outside culture negatively impact on the immediate indigenous culture practice, how do you term that?
When a negative culture impacts
on the indigenous one.
On the indigenous one, well, we may not have a term for that, but there are all forms of acculturation, because the acculturation, we don't look at it from either the positive or the negative perspective. They all form part.
Okay. I had an idea. That is what I wanted. There's an idea that I wanted to help me.
Okay.
I know of maladaptive culture practices.
Okay.
That is where alien culture practices overshadow the indigenous one, impacting it negatively. As example, when we come to our culture like this, we give respect to the elderly, like you just said. And in this case, a child will say that I've paid, you have also paid, so why should I stand up for you to sit? Which is negatively compared to our previous one where we give respect to the elderly ones.
Yes, that's true. We have maladaptive behavior. No two ways about that. But what do you call it? Or an ineffective or unhealthy pattern of acting, thinking, or feeling that interfere with daily life. Maladaptive behavior. So we could have maladaptive culture. Please do get it.
Yes, please.
But you when the two comes into contact, like that's how come our presentation veered off a little to draw in colonialism, our contact with the white guys, the positive influence is there, the negative aspect is also there. But we don't have negative acculturation and positive acculturation. But I believe that yes, we have negative side of culture, we have positive side of culture. The one that dominates will all fall under the acculturation we are talking about. Like I said, the cultural shock, that when you travel outside and you meet certain things for the first time, some of them may be positive, some of them may be negative. See, like in the outside culture, a child can tell the mother or father, don't be stupid, and that child can go scot-free. If you are a Ghanaian who has been trained in our environment for about 30 years, you travel outside and you see a 6-year-old telling the father or mother that don't be stupid. In fact, you'll be shocked the whole day. Is that not it? That's a negative acculturation or negative trait or negative feature of culture that you are witnessing. If you allow yourself to also copy that wrong one, fair enough. You can also learn the good ones. So that is what it is. But well, the maladaptive culture, we will dig more on that and see if it can suffice in the literature. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So the impact of colonial non-Western cultures, so acculturation of indigenous, local economies were disrupted and reorganized to suit the European needs, local subsistence. In fact, all these things are in geopolitics. You do that. Local subsistence agriculture was replaced with the production of crops and other commodities for global markets. Local handicrafts industries were driven out of business. LCDs supplied raw materials, whilst Europeans specialized in the production and distribution of finished goods. And then local transportation and urban development were developed in each colony. The seaport of Singapore, the Buenos Aires, etc., etc. Then boundaries between cultures were drawn at conference tables in Europe. Okay. So let's look at acculturation and the world economy. Now, in the contemporary world, culture interdependence is reinforced by trade. Many different resources and types of artifacts are now bought and sold on worldwide markets. Global resource and commodity markets were first established on a sustained basis in Southern and Western Europe during the Renaissance. The establishment of international trade in Renaissance Europe, resulted in the development of world economy, which involves a global system of economic exchange and political system composed of many separate independent countries. So bottom line, we are saying that acculturation in the world economy and majority of acculturation manifested or usually manifest through trade. And if you're looking at it from the international perspective, when the white came around with the aim of trading and also spreading the gospel, they ended up influencing us with their culture. So today, some of us bear the white, their names. We have surname, first name, of which mostly our first names are from these white people. You get that. the food, the taste for their commodities, their taste for their technology, and even their language that we have adopted holistically to be our national language. So acculturation in the world economy, we can say that it largely occurred through trading among ourselves. So that is that on the resource and resource or culture and then resource. So the definition of culture, the characteristics or the traits in the definition of culture, then re-establishing the fact that there isn't any literature to support that some cultures are more superior than others. Then we talked about the artifacts, the institution of values in culture, the cultural landscape, then culture and resource, then culture contact and conflict, colonialism, its impact on Western cultures. So that is the white, the Europeans colonizing us and how it impacted on us, and then acculturation in the world economy. Any question on that? Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Please, I had wanted you to throw more light on the culture, contact, and conflict.
Okay. Yes, sir. The cultural contact and conflict, that is, in summary, the acculturation that we are talking about. Because culture is simply a way of life. So if you move from wherever you are to a different place, you are going to exhibit your way of life. The food you eat, the way you dress, the language you speak. Is that not it? Those are. So the same thing, the contact of the Europeans with Africans resulted in a classic example of acculturation. And we are saying that their culture dominated our own. We see their traits in us. And I've cited examples of even the food we eat, the language we speak, the way we dress. Do you get it? Yeah. So the cultural contact is basically looking at three different cultures meeting. And when two cultures meet, there is modification, there are changes in them. Either one will supersede the other, or the other one becoming a subordinate of the more powerful one. So basically, that is it. So the cultural contact and conflict, because the conflict aspect comes in when there are misunderstandings and even the way we perceive things, because the way you see things are different from how another person also sees it. So our perception differs and therefore creates some form of conflict within our cultures. That is where some people are even tempted to think theirs is more superior than others. But we are saying that there isn't any evidence to back that fact. There isn't any evidence to back that fact. If you think yours is superior, it is in your head. You can't say it. You can't go out publicly and go and make such pronouncements. If you do, you are likely to have issues with people, especially when it comes to religious issues. You can't say this one is wrong, this one is barbaric. Why should people practice this? No, please. You cannot go that tangent. Okay.
Sir, please to add to the follow-up question to what my brother just asked.
Okay.
In a situation where two cultural practices are performed at the same time, is it also not referred to as conflict in contact of the culture? Example, when you
Yes.
come to a setting like this, we know that when you marry once, we have a traditional system of marriage, and now we have added that of the Western line, that is the wedding, the church one. Meanwhile, when you perform the traditional one, it's accepted, and then the ordinance one too is accepted. But we are allowed to perform the two because we are in a dilemma. Can't we
Yes.
consider that one as a conflict?
Yes, like you're saying, that is right. That is right. But from your submission, you said that the one who practices the customary is accepted. Those who also want to do the ordinance, that is also accepted. But sometimes,
But in our context, we do the two.
That's what I'm saying. It is ignorance. It is ignorance to even think marriage by customary marriage is not recognized. It is recognized. It is official. You understand? But I don't know if it is because of ignorance that is, oh, let's go and do the household, then we'll come to the church. No. But what it means is that once you do both, then the ordinance supersedes the customary. And it implies you have nullified the first one. So it is sheer ignorance. It is sheer ignorance. Even our law recognizes three: the Islamic marriage, the customary marriage, and then marriage by ordinance. These are the three. The laws of Ghana recognizes all these three as the forms of marriages that we have in our country. But because of ignorance, we think if you do the customary, it is not enough. You have to go to the church and also do that one. Okay. But that is the implications of what I've said. If you do the two, then the ordinance will then supersede the customary. But that is one of the outcomes of our contact with what do you call it? Our Africans and that of Europeans. That is it. That is it. Okay. Any other concern, please? Hello. Hello.
There are no questions, sir.
Okay. Then let's look at the second one, please. Okay. So let's look at the sixth one. Cultural activities, nutrition, and health. Hey, did I say culture? Oh, why is culture? Agricultural activities, nutrition, and health. Hope that is right. So the origin of agriculture. So where did agriculture originate from? Now, in our Greek geography, we say that the origin of agriculture is unknown. Take notice of that. Funny enough, sometimes students say from the Garden of Eden. Where is that garden? So the simple answer is that the origin of agriculture is unknown. But if you are looking for the most diverse economic activity of man, it's agriculture. Why? Because it is practiced in areas where people settle, or wherever people settle. One of the commonest economic activity you are likely to see is agriculture, because everyone eats. In a rational being, you have to ask, where will tomorrow's bread come from? So agriculture is the most diverse economic activity. So when we talk of agriculture, what is it? Agriculture is the systematic cultivation of crops and rearing of livestock to produce food and fiber for subsistence or for sustenance or for economic gain. Prior to the development of agriculture, most people survived by hunting and gathering. People living in hunting and gathering societies subsisted on meat of wild animals and berries, fruit, nuts, and root. Migration coincided with the movement of wild animals or the ripening of plants at different locations. Today, there are some societies that live by hunting and gathering, or there are some societies that live by hunting and gathering. Such societies are found in harsh or isolated environments, such as in the Canadian Arctic, occupied by the Inuit. Contemporary hunting and gathering societies are facing major acculturation problems resulting from continuous contact with Western cultural institutions. So basically, from before modernity or civilization, man engaged in hunting and gathering, moving from place to place, depending on what nature could provide. Whatever they got, they feed on it until man had to settle at a place, give attention to crops, till the land, nurture what they wanted to eat until they got what they were looking for. And that's the genesis of agriculture. Now, last week, I said, when we were discussing settlement, I said, the contributions or the significance of agriculture is that agriculture brought about settlement. So people had to settle at a place in order to give attention to crops. And so they ended up nurturing the land. And in that process, communities became vast as we have it today. Okay. Agriculture offered several important advantages to people who had previously subsisted through hunting and gathering. Among the major ones include it enables humans to produce and accumulate surplus food. Agriculture will help you because once you are made a conscious effort to cultivate a particular kind of crop, at the end of the day, you are likely to get the food you want and also preserve or save the surplus for future use. Crops could also be stored and preserved for future use, yes. In the olden days, there was nothing like going to the agrochemical shop to go and buy seedlings and those stuff. To pick the good ones, you keep them for the next crop season so that you can plant those ones that you kept the previous year or during the harvest season. Crops could be stored. Okay. Domestic animals could be slaughtered for meat as the need arose. Food storage freed people from the need to search continually for food. So since they were able to keep the surplus, man was liberated from moving or continuous search for food from one place to another. Surplus accumulation allowed for the division of labor, as not everyone had to be involved directly in the process of gathering food. So others could do something else, whilst others also engage in other exercises. So at the end of the day, if you needed farm produce and also needed what you were also engaging, you could easily exchange it for what we both needed. Then it allowed people to remain in a single location, definitely, like sedentary living or sedentary agriculture or sedentary cultivation, encourage the growth of settled villages, towns, and cities, like I told you initially. So agriculture has now undergone a remarkable transformation, especially in the developed countries. Purchase or agriculture has become highly capital intensive and technology intensive. So now you require money, you also require technology. Now others are using drones to spray their crops, the advanced countries. But if you want to adopt that system, you need more money to do that. And today, if you don't also engage in such kind, you are not likely to get a higher harvest. So agriculture has now gone through a remark. Okay, the efficiency of modern agriculture enables many farmers to produce large surpluses, which are traded across great distances. Although labor-intensive agriculture as a way of life remains much more commonplace outside the developed world. Recent changes in the global economy have also had profound effects on farming in less developed countries. No one knows for certain where agriculture first originated. I think I've told you already that no one knows the origin of agriculture. However, some experts believe that it was invented independently of several locations. So Southwest Asia, China, India, East Africa, Central and South America all have been proposed as regions where various forms of agriculture originated. The prominent agriculture geographer Kasawa provided valuable insight into the origin of agriculture. Kasawa said agriculture did not originate as a seed production. What he simply meant was that if man was hungry and you gave him seed, the first thought wouldn't be to go and sow. The first thought would be, let me satisfy my hunger. So if any school of thought believes that agriculture started with seed crops like maize, rice, sorghum, those things, they say it's not true. They rather believes in the vegetative planting. The vegetative planting is using any part of the plant for sowing or for cultivation other than the seed. So cassava, use part of it. That is vegetative agriculture. Plantain, use the sucker. That's vegetative agriculture. So that was his assertion. But there are other school of thought that also believes in the seed agriculture, but that is not the focus of this discussion. When we get into that, we will have time to go through it. So what are the types? Basically, we have two types. We have subsistence and commercial agriculture. These are the two. So the subsistence is a form of farming where the land occupies most of the necessities of life, food, fuel, and shelter. These another items which cannot be generated in this way are acquired through trading the surplus. So we have what is called peasant farmer or peasant farming. The idea is not to cultivate the crops and sell. No. Your motivation is to cultivate the crops to feed yourself. However, when you produce and you are unable to consume all, you sell the surplus. And in selling the surplus, or if you sell the surplus, then it becomes a peasant farming. A peasant farming. So that's my paper, so I can't go there. Okay. So that is that. So most farmers in less developed countries consume the crops they produce. Farmers who consume much of what they produce practice subsistence agriculture. So when we talk of subsistence agriculture, it is basically growing to feed yourself and your immediate family. Subsistence. Okay, so under the subsistence, it has been divided into three. We have shifting cultivation, we have pastoralism, and intensive subsistence agriculture. Have you seen that? These are the three. Remember, I said we have two types of agriculture: subsistence and commercial. But under the subsistence, we have what is called shifting cultivation, pastoralism, and intensive subsistence agriculture. So what is shifting cultivation? It is a form of subsistence agriculture in which farmers abandon their fields and establish new ones every few years, but rarely move their residents. This system is characterized by rotation of fields rather than rotation of crops. Now, what does this mean? When we say rotation of field in subsistence, in shifting cultivation, farmers practice rotation of fields rather than rotation of crops. And what we are saying is that when the farmer moves from the one of the farm to establish the new one, he takes along some of the crops that are on that land, go and plant them on the new land he has cultivated. So you will realize that as for the crops that he cultivates, they are the same, but the location changes. So today he has one farm, or this year he farms in a neighborhood. The following year he goes to Bodesango. Now when he's going to Bodesango, yeah, Jinanumam. 30 minutes per. Jinanumam. Go Jinanumam. So we realize that it is the same procedure. Just that the crops remains the same, but the location differs. That is why we are saying that in shifting cultivation, there is rotation of fields rather than rotation of crops. Those who practice shifting cultivation live on and farm lands whose soil is generally poor in nutrient and unable to sustain high crop yield year after year, such as hot, rainy, tropical regions. Many who practice it live in villages surrounded by land held by the villagers in common. The vegetation is cut and burned before crops are planted because fields are cleared for farming by cutting and burning the vegetation. Shifting cultivation is also known as slash and burn agriculture. So they are all here for your consumption. I think I've explained them. So another issue here, subsistence agriculture without marketing involvement of any sort is referred to as tribal or primitive economy. Subsistence without marketing. So like this one, you don't sell any part of your produce. That one becomes tribal or primitive economy. Whereas household subsistence produces with some form of production for sale and some degree of surplus production over needs are peasant. I think I've also explained the peasant. If you sell the surplus, that is a peasant farmer. If you do not sell the surplus, but you consume everything, that one is what is called tribal or primitive economy. Are we taking notice of that? The main features of subsistence agriculture include the following. Each family plants many different crops on its plot of land. That is true. So when you go to the farm, they can harvest cassava, plantain, tomatoes, ntropo, mesoa, mako papa. Mention them. All the things you can think of for poor. So when they are coming back home, the trail that they carry, almost everything. Almost everything. So each family plants different crops. That same piece of land. Rotation of fields rather than rotation of crops. I've explained that. Planting and harvesting times are staggered so that some food is available at all times of the year. So, like, because they are a lot. If you don't get this, you are likely to get the other. And usually when they harvest, they plant them. So by the time you go and come back in the next 3-4 months, it is matured again. So every time of the year, when you go to the farm, you are likely to get food. The risk of famine is reduced because should one crop be plagued by drought, disease, flooding, etc., the other crops will compensate for it. Because the crops are not homogeneous, when a pest or disease attacks one, the others will survive. Are you okay? Others will survive. It provides people with more varied and balanced diet. So if you don't get yam, you are likely, even though they all fall in the family of carbohydrates, but you can have fruit because multiple crops are cultivated on the same piece of land. It supports only relatively small families. Subsistence farming is usually meant to feed a small family. The final products are not primarily for sale. So in subsistence farming, yeah, our motivation is not to sell. But I've told you that when you sell the surplus, you become a peasant farmer. If you don't sell at all, you are a tribal or primitive economy. What is bush fallow? This is subsistence type of agriculture in which land is cultivated for few years. Swish. Few years until its natural fertility is exhausted. So the land is allowed to rest for a considerable period during which the natural vegetation regenerates itself before it is again cleared and the land recultivated. The farms or settlement from which cultivation takes place are fixed. And as the population increases, so the length of the fallow period is likely to reduce. So what does this mean? We are saying that this kind of farmer farms on the land leaves it after the land has exhausted its nutrient or its fertility. Then they abandon that land with the intention that we want to allow it to naturally regain it, and then we can come back and farm on it. Then the final one under the subsistence, we have what is called the pastoralism. It is the breeding and the rearing of certain domesticated herbivorous animals and ruminants as a primary means to satisfy food, clothing, and shelter. It involves both commercial and livestock rearing. Okay. So there are several names that is given to those who are into livestock rearing. When you go to the northern Scandinavia, they are called the Samis. When you come to Arabia, they are the Bedouin. When you go to the East Africa, they are called the Maasai. Now when you come to West Africa, you see they are the Fulani. So take notice of that. Pastoralists seldom use their animals for meat, except in times of great need or on ceremonial occasions. So why? Because society's prestige, your prestige and your wealth status in society is predicated upon the number of cattle or animals you have. That's why they don't kill their animals for food unless in a special occasion. So take notice. Then we have people that seasonally they migrate between mountains and lowland pastures in search of for their animals. We call them transhumans. 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 Pastoral nomads, or nomadic pastoralists, those who move from place to place. Sometimes they move because of what? Political pressure. Alcohol. Okay. So we have intensive subsistence agriculture. Neither shifting cultivation or pastoralism can support large population. In more population, more land resources. The dominant form of agriculture is intensive subsistence agriculture. It involves the regular production of crops. The regular production of crops on a small plot of land that are farmed in successive years. Okay. So the main difference is from the other side is that it can support a large population. Okay, so the difference between intensive subsistence agriculture and subsistence agriculture is that the intensive subsistence agriculture can support a large population. Remember, the motivation is not to sell, but after the primitive or the other subsistence, we realize that it is just to take care of the immediate family, the small family. But the intensive one, the population is large and okay, are you following? So now let's look at contemporary agriculture. So when I say contemporary agriculture, we are looking at modern day agriculture. Although many farmers in less developed countries still practice various forms of subsistence agriculture, commercial agriculture is becoming increasingly important. They still practice various forms of commercial agriculture, subsistence agriculture. Commercial agriculture is becoming increasingly important. Gone are the days people were not much into farming for as a business. That is why majority of our farmers till date, when you ask them, they say they are unemployed because our kind of farming motivation wasn't to sell. So they don't see it as a a business venture, but rather as a form of culture. Colonialism and agriculture, as the European economy expanded overseas in the 18th and 19th century, agricultural production bit over here, brother. Agricultural production. Agricultural products became a major important source of income for the colonizing countries of Western Europe. Long before American Revolution, the Middle Atlantic colonies of the United States had become one of the leading crop producing areas in the world. The southern colonies specialized in cotton, rice, tobacco, that could not tolerate cold, damp climate in Europe. Many of the crops grown in European colonies were for sale. In Europe itself were produced from plantation. A plantation is a large commercial farm that specializes in the production of crops for consumption at a distant location. Today, plantation agriculture remains an important mode of commercial agriculture production in less developed countries. Many tropical fruits, vegetables, tea, and sugar are grown on plantation. So we had what is called plantation agriculture. Like I said, that one is a single kind of crop. So if you look at the futures, specializes in the production of single crop. That's true. Crops produced are basically for export. That is also true. We produce coffee, but we don't eat them. It's compared to how the white eats it. Crops produced are basically for export. Crops are particularly susceptible to damage from flood, drought, frost, and pests. Many plantations become dependent on the European or American technology. Most plantations are intensive, labor intensive, with employee working for wages. Yeah. Countries with plantation dominated economies rely on their specialized crops as a means of building up surplus for exchange on the global market, and etc. etc. So that is that. And we also have what is called green revolution. I want to talk of green revolution. Yes. Kind of agriculture that time to be produced on a large scale in less developed countries. Large numbers of people in less developed countries resulted in pressure to increase food supplies by expanding production and by producing higher crop yields on existing lands. Scientists have made impressive progress in the innovation and diffusion of high-yielding varieties of rice, wheat, and other grains in less developed countries. These efforts to increase agricultural productivity in less developed countries have been termed as green revolution. So the green revolution is a kind of targeted agriculture in less developed countries to have a higher yielding varieties of maize, wheat, and other grains, so that we can produce on a large scale and a large quantity. New hybrid crops enable farmers to increase productivity in many ways. The newly developed, or they were newly developed, the newly developed varieties were much more resistant to drought and disease. They matured quickly and allow double cropping, increasing yield previously restricted by a single crop annually. So what are the challenges? The idea is, what are the challenges? Looking at where it is being implemented. High yield depends on large quantities of fertilizers or inorganic manure, pesticides, and other additives. Can our farmers adopt what do you call it? Can our farmers afford that? Technologies needed to produce these high-yielding varieties are beyond the use of small farmers. Only wealthier landowners and farmers could afford to adopt the improved technologies, but their effort drive away. Decline in the prices put pressure on poorer farmers. So you cannot guarantee that when you produce on a large scale, you will get buyers. If you don't get it, then it put pressure on the farmers a whole lot. So that is a picture of the modern agriculture, the green revolution. Then we come to the commercial farming proper. And the commercial farming proper, that one is basically producing on a large scale for sale. Your motivation is to sell it. And even you say that you don't sell it locally, you sell it to the international market. You sell it to the international market. So a large majority of farmers in the developed countries are commercial farmers who produce commodities for sale on regional, national, and global markets. In contrast to subsistence farming, commercial farming, in contrast to the subsistence farming, commercial farming is highly mechanized, capital intensive, and highly integrated into the world economy. Most commercial farmers have invested heavily in machinery, fertilizer, pesticides, higher yielding crop varieties, and other technologies. Now, when you go to the advanced countries, one person's produce from his farm can even take care of all Ghanaians. The rice farmer in the US, rice farmer in India, rice farmer in many of the Scandinavian countries. Those are very rich. In our part, farmers die early. I remember telling a class that research has shown that the average Japanese farmer would live very long. Why? Because when they go to the farm and they see how blossom the crops are, blooming, the leaves very green, but that excitement it adds on to their age. Now we say save in our part of the world. Here farmers I always jokingly say that when you go to Agricultural Development Bank, when I ask the branch manager that how many farmers have bank account for them, they are saying it is Agricultural Development Bank. How many farmers will be given loan from there? They don't get their support. Although some commercial sell their goods directly to farmers, when their harvest is ready, they invite their buyers to their farm. You buy from the farm gate, what we call the farm gate prices. The close relationship between the commercial farmer and the other aspect of food production is known as agribusiness. So there are those who don't engage directly in the farming activity, but they will go to the market on Fridays and do maso. They will buy all the plantain, bring it to Accra, Takoradi, and the big cities. They sell for bigger profits. Those who sell agrochemicals, they all form part of what we call the agribusiness. In addition, the farming itself, agribusiness includes the farming of farm machinery and other equipment and other farm equipment and farm machinery and other equipment, and the processing, marketing, and distribution of food products. The integration of agriculture into agribusiness has increasingly considerably throughout the world. And the final thing is what is called agroforestry, the cultivation of tree or bush crop, coffee, oil palm, rubber, tea, sometimes alternating with annual food crops to give a sustainable and economically viable agriculture in place of climax forest vegetation of the humid and sub-humid tropics. So if you have ever used the Accra Cape Coast Road, when you get to the Kasua Toll Booth, you see that they sell flowers there in their pots. Their nursery, some of them they nurse the flowers and then they sell them. They form part of what we are terming as agroforestry. Those who nurse coconut, they sell. Those who nurse oil palm and they sell. Those who nurse rubber and all those tree crops and they sell. They fall under what is called agroforestry. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, any questions so far? Hello.
No questions, sir.
Uh-huh.
No questions, sir.
Okay.
No questions. No questions, sir.
Okay. So uh, that is the first 6 topics we have covered so far. So next week we shall have the last meeting, 7 and 8, and then shall be done. If you come across any issue you want us to discuss, feel free and then get in touch with me or send me a WhatsApp message. I will respond to you accordingly.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I want to say thank you for making this afternoon as well.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Hello. Uh,
Please, are we on break or we've just closed?
We are done.
The class is over. We are done.
Madam, please, is Madam Mary around? Please, if you
Okay,
can hear
thank
me,
you.
kindly call me, okay?
Fami, I've been missing your calls. I'll get in touch.
Okay, Stephen. Stephen. Stephen.
Mary. Mary. Madam Mary. Madam Mary.